Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a reel that Richard sent in. Richard is out in Pennsylvania. I'd worked on some reels for a friend, and he said, could I help him with his Mitchell? Well, this is a modern Mitchell, or I guess as modern as it was. This is not the 300 Mitchell. This is the 300X, and I guess X marks the spot. These have been sitting around for a while, and well, Richard wants to get fishing again, get these on poles. He asked me if I could work on them. This one has a little bit of a unique architecture. Again, it's not the older Mitchell 300. It's a 4-ball bearing drive, and I wish I could say it's the same Mitchell quality of the predecessors. It's not. You can see they use steel screws here, and they've rusted. I hope I can get those out. And Richard tells me, you know, they've been sitting around in storage for a while. You can see all the old dust and film and grime and the like. But we're going to try and just tune this one up for him. It's actually working. There is a roughness to the drive. But before I start, I like to test the functions. And for the most part, those functions are working. I believe, but I may be incorrect, that I believe that this has a spiral drive in it. We're going to find out. All right, we're going to take the reel apart. We're going to show you how to service it, how it's made, and how to get this one fishing again, giving it a second chance. Well, if you like these types of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button to let you know when I'm posting, and you'll be able to see whether that's a reel that I'm working on that you would like to learn more about, or perhaps it's one that you have that you want to learn how to service, and notification buttons will help you with that. Okay, we're going to take off the spool. I have a little scrubby pad here, and I have some rod and reel cleaner, so I guess there's no time like the present to just try and knock off some of that old film. I get asked a lot, what cleaners do I use and things like that. Well, this one is a Penn rod and reel cleaner, and this is a Scotch-Brite. I guess it's not the Scotch-Brite, it's one of those dollar store knockoffs. I actually like them better because they fold easier. This is the Penn rod and reel cleaner that I'm using for my cleaning activities there. Well, it doesn't take much. It's kind of a the old Search Smith kind of a thing. It's a cleaner and a polisher in one. And look at that, just a couple of years of storage just wiped off of this one. That'll make it look nice. And I'm not quite sure whether this case can come off first. I'm going to remove the handle. Since it's got 4 ball bearings in it, well, that's clearly not the old Mitchell, because the old Mitchell had 0 ball bearings in it. Once I take the handle off, I take the click ratchet and the spool shim off. And when I remove those pieces and parts, I put them into a parts tray. I use the bottom of a fast food container as a way to organize my pieces and parts so that when it comes time to reinstall, I know where they are. This is a set screw that's going to hold that little lock plate down. And now we can remove the screw that's holding the rotor on. I'm going to do that by moving this down to its lowest point, and I think I can get a deep socket on there. If Mitchell's true to form, that's going to be their 12mm socket, and all I have to do is find it. I like to keep these nearby and handy because, well, you don't want to disrupt the flow of your work to go try and find the right piece and part. Okay, that is a 12mm. And as soon as I break those screws, I just move over to take it off by hand from there. And we can move that off. Put that in my parts tray with the other 2 pieces, and this should lift off and up. You can see the anti-reverse here. It's got a dog override on it. I know somebody who will like that. That allows you to run back and forth. And in gear, it will lock down the anti-reverse collar. And again, something that wasn't on the older Mitchells, but it's on this one. There's a good point right now to tell you to take pictures of your reel as you're disassembling it. That will help you when you go to reinstall everything. This should be an instant anti-reverse clutch now. I'm going to pull that up. And there's a collar underneath that. If that's a collar that's rusted on. That's unfortunate. Okay, Just going to lay this off to the side. We had those two washers that were on top. I'm going to just put them in the way that they came out. I'm going to put that into my parts tray. I'm going to put a little penetrating oil on it. We'll see if we can lift that off in a little bit. But let's go down underneath here. There's the 4 screws that I had mentioned. And it looks like I could have taken the side plate off without taking the other piece off, but that's okay. We want to get to that pinion gear anyway. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, if you want to learn more about something, just leave that in the comment section. I will try to help you. Your questions do not need to be about this reel in this comment section. Maybe you're working on one and you're stuck. Maybe you're wondering a little bit more about a company's history, or maybe how to use a particular reel. Just leave it in this comment section. I do try to answer the questions first thing in the morning before I get into my shop. And if you leave it the night before, you can generally expect that by noon you'll have your question answered. If you try to call, well, that's going to be haphazard. There is a number on the business card. I don't recommend that you call. Whenever I'm in my shop, I don't answer my phone. You can understand that. I'm doing videos and the like here, and I generally try to focus on that when I'm doing this. Okay, I'm not sure if we can get the main gear out. We can, and yes, it has a spiral drive underneath it, and we're going to see if we can remove the main gear to the pinion gear, rather, to service that. And to do that, we're going to start by taking out the axle shaft that holds the crosswind block. Now, when I service these reels, I generally do not remove that spiral drive. We should be able to pull up and out on the axle shaft now. You can see the setup for the spiral drive, and I'm going to use a penetrating oil just to get in there and get some of that old grease off. Next, what I want to do is come over here. I want to take this collar off. Well, just like we had above, we have below. We have a Teflon washer for that anti-reverse clutch. And I'm still not having any cooperation there with the collar that's there. But we have the 2 washers just like we had above, below. And again, if you're keeping score, that always helps when you go to reassemble. Let's take the 2 pieces of this off. There's a spring attached right here on the collar. Pay particular attention to that. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen when I go to take this off, so I'm going to hold my finger close. I don't know if that spring is hooked in or just simply sitting in. And I guess we'll take a pliers and see if we can get an answer to that. Alright, it's a straight up and down arm, which is something to be thankful for. And again, you can tell these are steel screws because they're magnetic. And it's a shame that we're in that situation where they compromised on that. We should be able to pull this up and out. And again, we can do our cleaning and everything without disrupting the worm gear. This worm gear has a setup very similar to what they use on the Shimano reels and the like. It's not a bad design. Very smooth design, actually. We just want to get the dirt and grease and grime and junk out of there. So we'll do that. And this is kind of welded on. That's what I was hoping to be able to get off. I can't, but I was able to get that under. If it was something where the bearing was bad, then we'd really have a problem. But right now I'm able to clean that pinion gear and the bearing without that becoming an issue. So what I'll do simply is re-grease the pinion gear. I'm going to re-oil the bearing and we're going to put it right back in. And again, when I tested, I felt that the lack of greases, but I didn't feel anything that says you had a bad bearing. I'm going to oil that bearing. Use fishing oils and greases, please, as you do that. And the only other one I want to oil in this case here, or I'm sorry, grease in this case, is that back drive for the worm gear. I'm using fishing reel grease for this. I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease. I guess that's appropriate because the parent company to Penn, which is Pure Fishing, now owns the Mitchell brand. And I think this one's been around quite some time. This particular model, it's not a new model that was released recently. Go ahead and put your pinion gear back in. You want to put the collar back on. You're going to the port tray and get those two magnetic screws, which means that they're steel. Which also means I don't have to struggle too hard with getting them started because the magnetic tip on this will hold that down. That's one. Go ahead and put the other one in. So Mitchell's been around a long time and came on hard times after the distributor, which was Garcia, went bankrupt. Mitchell had to close because they lost their primary sales agent in the U.S. And over time, kind of went here and there. At one point, Browning bought them and made some Mitchell reels for a while. They actually made some Browning reels with the Mitchell plant. But then production, Browning sold it to Pure Fishing, or somebody in between who sold it to Pure Fishing. I don't remember exactly. And, well, it just became a Me Too brand made in China. Has nothing to do with made in France any longer. Okay, give it a turn. I want to oil this worm gear here. That's turning nice and free and easy, and I'm not hearing that noise any longer. I am going to just put a little bit more grease onto that pinion gear here because I noticed that there was a dry spot on the back on the worm gear drive. Okay, we're going to bring that down to the bottom. We have a bearing on the back end of this main gear. Test that bearing. It's turning. I'm going to oil that. It's a shielded bearing. Just going to oil it up good. Now that bearing came out with the main gear. I like to put them back in by themselves, the way that they should seat. You can tell we've got nothing on here, which is probably why this thing was making as much noise as it was. Load in the inside. I'm going to use a Q-tip to dry it, to clean up all that dried old grease in there. My guess is this reel probably hasn't been serviced since it left the plant. And I know Dick said that he wants to get it fishing again. It's been in storage. You can see that from the dirt in the film, but that's okay. What we're doing here is inspecting the pieces and parts. We're making sure that they are all uniform, that the teeth are clean. There's no chips, cracks, breaks, or anything like that. And then, well, just reinstalling. Bring that main gear over. I'm going to oil that bearing. So everything I've seen here says this thing should be a nice, fluid, manageable reel. And ready to go fishing again without the noise. Alright, there's a flat side on your axle shaft. Well, we can't do that quite yet. Got a couple of things that we want to do first. First up, we want to bring back the washers. There's a metal washer and then there's a Teflon washer, which are going below the anti-reverse clutch. And you want to bring in the clutch. Do not oil that clutch. It's a friction device. And you want to bring in the other Teflon washer and the other metal washer. And we had two big washers that came in. And again, you can go to your pictures if you're wondering, oops, where did that piece come from or go to? And we have our I'm going to do two things with the rotor before I put that back on. First is just a kind of a general cleaning, but I want to make sure that I oil the two seams and the roller bearing for the bail, and I want to work that in. Because when you go into storage, a lot of times the greases that are in there, or the oils that are in there, they're going to dry up. If they dry up, it'll make that bail a little bit more difficult to close. And I'm using that polish again. We'll just try and get all the little design points in here, get them all cleaned up. And there's a section in here which I can never reach with that cloth, so I'm going to use a cotton swab to get in there and clean that up and off, just like that. And I'll clean the top as well. All right, we can put the rotor back on now. Find the two flat sides that you can mount this. Put the rotor nut on, 12 millimeter. It came off in the traditional left-handed turn off, so we can put it back on in a clockwise manner, the old righty-tighty kind of thing. You can use the hand as much as you can on these, because what you want to do is you don't want to cross-thread these. And then there's one more little tie-down piece here. So find a hole that's going to be able to, oops, that was an oops. I'll put our collar on. I'm wondering why, looking for the hole, it wasn't close. And tie down that little circular clamp. Let's go ahead and do the axle shaft, just a light coating of grease on the axle shaft after you clean it. Bring that down and insert that into your carrier. I guess we probably need to pull that out anyway. There's a tie-down screw here for the axle shaft. I do remember that one came out before the other. Let's put that back in. I guess now we can take that bearing out, put that in. Bearing's probably seen more action here and it's done a cleanup than it has in its life. Alright, now that case can come back on. Before I do that case, I want to clean out the inside of it and polish up the outside of it. And again, I'm using that rod and reel cleaner. It stays on here. It's got quite a little lot of travel there. And while you're at it, get underneath the heel here. You won't be able to do that as easily when it comes time to reset it. Put the case back on. Make sure it fits nice and snug. Wipe that off. That cleaned up nicely. And go get the 4 screws. I noticed when I took these off that all 4 screws were the same, so it doesn't matter what slot you put them in. You always want to check with the screws if there's a longer one or a shorter one. You need to note the location. It's fairly common practice on these spinning reels to change sizes or threads on screws in that side plate. Alright, I got one that's a little rusty here. Let's go put that over here on the side. Maybe it won't be seen as much. I don't know. It always bothers me when they save a couple of fractions of a penny going to a steel screw on what's supposed to be a fairly good representation of their brand. Okay, 2 more. These are Phillips head screws, but you can use a flat screwdriver on them. And that's what I needed to do. I wasn't getting a good grip on that one screw there. Last one. I have no doubt this thing's going to be a nice, smoother operating one. I'm going to hit the stud here on this handle knob with the WD-40. That'll help it penetrate in there. Next up, we can put the handle back on. We have our click ratchet and our spool shim. The spool shim is designed to keep the line level as you spool. It's a height adjuster. And we have, let's see if we can get this out. We have a C-clip in here holding in drag washers. It's worth a check. My guess is they're probably going to be Teflon washers. No, they're felt washers. That's a good thing we checked. Okay, we have 6 washer system. And they're felt washers. So felt washers get oiled to keep them flexible. I'm going to use the same fishing reel oil. I'm going to soak them. These, of course, have been sitting in storage, so they're very dry. You'll notice that we have 2 round ones and 1 octagonal or stop sign shaped, 6-sided, I guess, hex. Washer, that hex goes in the middle. So there's a shiny bottom of the spool here. First one goes in. Make sure these are clean. If they're not carrying any dirt or grit, that will compromise the performance of the washer. Second one goes in. It's kind of hard to kind of show you and do it at the same time. Hex one is the middle washer. There's a shiny side and a flat side, and no, it doesn't make a difference which side you put in. I guess on the top side, maybe you want to put the shiny side up just so anybody looking inside of that might feel good about it. And we have the retention clip. Start on one side with the clip, get it into the slot. Kind of hard to show you again with the camera, but get it into one side of the slot and walk it around. And use a screwdriver to get that down the right way. Takes a bit of hand strength. Like anything else here, if you're patient, you will get it in and get it done properly. Okay, get back in. Just make sure it's sitting in the slot. Then we can remount onto your reel. You need to align the holes in those washers. Sometimes putting it on upside down is the easiest way to align them. With that big button, I didn't clean that button on the way out, so we'll clean it on the way in. And that's it. This is the Mitchell 300X. It's a later edition. I don't remember exactly when it was made, but again, it's, if you look at the technology inside with the worm drive oscillation gear, it's very similar to a Shimano Stradic, the early versions of that. So it's not a poorly designed reel. It might have some issues with the actual components used in it. I don't like steel screws, but otherwise we should be in good shape. Oh man, is that smooth now or what? Wow, nice and easy. Of course, we have this in the off position, so let's make sure that we have the instant anti-reverse, and we do. Let's make sure our bail is clicking. It is. And Richard, you're going to be ready to go fishing again. Look at that, 3 nice reels. He sent me 2 more. He sent me some Mitchell 300s to service as well. These are ready to go fishing. So I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you do to keep us safe. I do appreciate your efforts. The fire, the rescue, the police, EMTs and the like. Thank you for all it is that you do. And to everyone, well, let's learn lessons from this. Keep your tackle serviced, ready to go fishing, even if, well, you might be deciding to take a break for some time. service it before you store your reels. Keep your reels in a dry place. Lack of humidity always helps, help in terms of not having the oils and lubrication dry out on you. And if you put them in the storage nice, they should come out of storage nice. So tip to all. So everybody, thanks for watching. Have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.